If you don't have enough money for your pizza from DoorDash or your burrito, they'll finance it on installment plans.
So it's like
that's a really scary thing to hear.
Yeah, buy now, pay later.
Another thing I was seeing in a lot of the news is there a lot of states are proposing abolishing property tax. Do you think that's going to start to see the light? Is that actually going to happen? Is that a possibility?
What would you say to the people? It's kind of a loaded question, but what's your biggest piece of advice for someone looking to kind of make a change in their life and getting into the real estate space and creating wealth and opportunities for their families? Welcome back to another episode of the Real Talk Podcast. I'm your host, Nick Furman.
And I'm your other host, Anthony Slane.
And today's guest gives Tim Misney a run for his money with all these billboards around Ohio. Welcome, John Williams, man.
Thanks a lot, Nick.
Thanks for coming on, brother. Good to see you again.
Thanks for coming on, man.
Yeah, you got it.
How's everything?
Everything's really good.
Good.
Yeah, really good.
So yeah, man, we were excited to have you on. Anthony was pumped. Obviously, you've been following him longer than I have, but it was great meeting you months back here at the office, and we're excited to have you here, bro.
Thanks a lot for having me. Yeah, you got an insane setup over here.
Yeah,
like probably the coolest real estate office I've ever been to.
Yeah, it's pretty cool here, but yeah, we're excited, man, to have you on. I think you could bring a lot of value and education to the people listening. And just to kick it off, tell us about your story and your background. So where'd you grow up? California?
No, I grew up in New Jersey.
Okay, but you lived in California.
I moved to LA. So I moved to Long Beach first in 2006. Then I was a real estate agent like 2008 when the market crashed for 3.5-4 months. I sold 5 houses, made almost nothing because the values were really low. But I took that savings, got a letter of recommendation from the broker there, then became an agent in Beverly Hills with that letter of recommendation, and started co-listing a lot of bigger properties with agents, building out my own name in that industry, and then saved up my money and started investing in property.
Were you listing a lot of residential properties? Or
Only residential.
Only residential?
Yeah.
What year was that in Beverly Hills?
2009.
2009. It's an interesting time for real estate.
Yeah, I mean, at that time, a lot of people were leaving the business.
Yeah.
So for me, it was a good time because,
for sure,
I had less competition.
Right. And then, so that's how you kind of got your start down there. When did you move here? Because when you were in, were you just moved here to Cleveland?
I moved here November 1st.
Oh, wow. Okay. So, and when were you in? Was that you were in November to the office?
Yeah, I think it was like right when we first.
It was as soon as you moved. Yeah. So, I mean, I had followed John for I don't know how many years, quite a few. And when I saw you posted your story that you moved here looking to buy single family properties, I was like, this is crazy because we wholesale properties in Cleveland. I have to send you a message and we have to connect. So
yeah, I was happy.
Yeah, it's quite an honor to have you here. I really look at you like our modern day news outlet. Like I like to get all my information, world news, everything, just economics, real estate, AI. You speak to a lot of different topics, and I think it's great. Everything that you speak about is awesome.
Thanks a lot. I really appreciate that.
So you moved your family here in November.
Yep. Yeah.
And why did you do that? Why Cleveland? If I could guess, was it the affordability crisis where you see an opportunity here for, this is kind of, these smaller markets, a lot of people moving here just for the affordability?
Yeah. So what happened was, I would say 8 months ago, I filmed a video and this is in Delray Beach, Florida. And I was like, I'll take my wife out and the kids for dinner. We need to figure out something. Like, I'm not just going to stay here. We're not going to be able to invest here. Let's put the kids in the car and we'll drive around the country. We literally hit every major market. We went to Austin, we went to Atlanta, we went to Nashville, Des Moines, Iowa, Denver, Salt Lake City.
How long were you staying there?
All these places were like 2 days.
Wow.
So it was probably like a 2.5 week drive, 7,000 miles on my wife's car. We just drove around trying to figure out a market that made sense to invest.
Yeah.
And when we got to Cleveland, we're like, you're basically in a red state with low home prices, high rent, and a low property insurance inside of an affordability crisis.
Right.
Like, where can people go buy a home for $100,000?
Right.
They can't.
There's not many places left in the country.
And, last month, consumeraffairs.com came out saying Cleveland they have the most rent growth in Cleveland in the entire country last year.
What percent was it?
7.4.
Wow.
Like, that's pretty substantial. I mean, like, normally it's 3%.
Yeah, 100%. That's huge.
Yeah. And so you think about this, like, if you have 35% of the U.S. workforce working remote, you have, most retirees don't have enough money to make it. Like, $250,000 gets you what today? Nothing, right? Before, people thought like, oh, $250,000, I could retire on this.
I was gonna say, especially being retired.
Yeah, $250,000, like you're probably gonna make it 4 years, 5 years if you're lucky. $250,000 here, you could retire.
Right.
Like, you could buy a house for $80,000. You could maybe buy the neighbor next to you and that one, and you could rent them out, and you could basically live for free. So if you have retirees that have nowhere to turn, you have first-time buyers, and now this new workforce shift, and then you have institutional capital looking for a return, it's going to push rents up and prices up, I think.
Yeah, for sure.
So you speak to, like I said, I've followed you a while, and you're always speaking of the inflation crisis going on. With everything that Trump's doing right now, with all the tariffs that he's implementing, where do you see this going in the next couple of years? Do you think that's going to ultimately kick the can down the road? Do you think it's going to help long term? What do you see with that?
I think there's going to be two different types of consumers. I think it's going to be the lower income that they don't really have anything and they're fighting for scraps. And then there's going to be the top 10%. Mm-hmm. And the top 10%, they love an affordability crisis. They love inflation. They're going to be able to go out there and capitalize on all the stuff.
Absolutely.
So I think it's going to be almost like the 17, 1800s, where there's like the rulers, and then there's going to be like the modern day peasants. I think that's what's like, when they say they're going to like curb or combat inequality, like they're right. It's just not in the way people think. Like they're going to, I think it's going to become a really interesting.
Yeah, I was just reading an article. So there's it's like just over 6 million Americans facing foreclosure right now, is it? Or just behind on the mortgage, which is crazy. But, my question is like, there's so many Americans behind on a mortgage, right? But just a couple of years ago, everyone was refining out, so you'd think at the lower rates, they're going to see less distress. No, but obviously there's a ton of distress right now.
Well, you think about this though. I mean, if rates go down, who does that benefit? Asset holders. They're going to refi debt.
Right.
Like landlords, it's like a great situation for them. But for somebody that has a 60-month, 80-month car loan, rates going down.
By the way, car loans right now.
Yeah.
It's like 10%, 8 to 10%. It's crazy.
If you're lucky.
And what's the average car payment now? $800?
Yeah.
$750.
$750? Yeah. It's insane.
Yeah. 1 in 5 have an auto loan payment, just the loan, north of $1,000 a month. So it's like, what? Everybody's rich? I think everyone when 2021 happened and all the money came out, a lot of people were irresponsible with it, and they took out loans thinking that everything is going to go back to normal.
Yeah.
And I think this set up smart investors to borrow a lot of debt if they did it on responsibly and scale up their wealth in the coming years. And I think it pushed a lot of people. Now they're questioning all of their payments, car payments, their mortgage payments. So I think we're going to start seeing like this renter society form.
Yeah.
And the people that were smart with their money and invested well are just going to start scaling.
Yeah, for sure. So what are you doing now? You came here. What are you buying? Are you doing a lot? I know you're doing a lot of rentals, right? And you do a lot of work in Section 8. Is it just strictly rentals? Are you flipping? Bring us close.
We're not flipping. Yeah. We're just the purpose. Like we want to buy properties and we want to clean them up and make them really nice. Mm-hmm. And we want to put a long-term tenant inside.
And are you doing all Section 8 or?
Yeah, Section 8. Well, I wouldn't say all, but like that is our focus.
Yeah. That's great.
And with that, I'm just curious, do you see any potential challenges with Elon Musk coming into this whole Doge role? Like, do you see any potential challenges with the Section 8 program?
No, I mean, 100 million Americans rely on the federal government.
Right.
Right. And what does the federal government want? In my personal opinion, they want control. And so if you look at like 2020 during that entire period, the reason I believe a lot of people were compliant isn't so much that they were like scared of X, Y, and Z, but they had money. They were getting stimulus checks. There was student loan forgiveness. They had all these different things. And so like they're like, hey, like I'm good. Everything's good. If the government were to pull back funding, the American people lose trust in the system.
Absolutely.
Which works against the government's agenda. So I believe that the government's going to continue to move in that direction. I mean, look at Preti & Partners, founder Don Mellon. He was the head of, he was one of the main heads of Goldman Sachs.
Yeah.
Right? He founded Preti & Partners. They own 97,000 houses in America. How is it that they just raised a fund for 2,500 Section 8 only houses? Affordable, right? So at that same time, when they're talking about, we're going to cut back subsidies, one of the biggest players in residential real estate is like, I want to raise a fund for 2,500. No. It's like,
right.
They're scaling up because they're like, look, we're going to get to borrow cheap debt and buy these homes from distress. And we're going to be able to get guaranteed checks. And our investors are going to get paid directly to the government. And we're going to be able to scale this model.
Right.
And I think that's like the first stage of them kind of scaling this and probably put more properties in Section 8.
Yeah, for sure.
And what do you see the future being for a market like ours in Cleveland? You see people starting to teach Section 8 all over the place. It's getting very popular, as it should, in my opinion. I think it's an excellent strategy.
Yeah.
I think it's top tier. But I always think about in 5-10 years, what does this look like, right? In terms of property values increasing, housing shortages potentially at these price points. Do you see them just continuing to rise in Cleveland and similar markets?
Yeah, I think what's going to happen is like a lot of investors are looking, oh, I can buy this and get 17%, 18, 20, 25% returns. Oh, this is exceptional.
Can you do that in Beverly Hills?
No, you're getting 4, right? You get in any market, like you're getting 4 to 6% on single family, right? So if you're talking 17, 20, 25%, what's going to happen is the prices are going to continue to go up and it's going to compress cap rates. And people are going to be like, oh, look, 8%, I get that. Wow, that's incredible. It's like, all right, well, for the dude that bought it for 65 grand, like maybe now that property's worth 220, 200, like it's even better for him. So I think we're going to see capital flight to affordability.
Yeah, I agree. Definitely. How are you sourcing your deals here, other than all the billboards you're on around town? But are you just buying through wholesalers? Are you marketing?
Oh, so the lady that we just onboarded today, right? She brought us a deal, and we spoke for less than 10 seconds. Like she set up the showing, like we looked at the numbers of the deal. I walked out, the tenant showed me the property, and I was like, okay, thank you very much. Like just send us the wiring instructions, please, and we'll close. That was the end of it, and I walked away. A week and a half later, and one of my assistants, Casey, reached out to her like, oh, hey, would you be open to, doing some property management work for us? And she's like, oh, yeah, definitely. Because it was like seamless and it wasn't.
Right.
Yeah. So like that with one wholesaler, with one realtor, with one person at a time is like starting to open the pipeline up a little bit more.
Yeah. So it's just networking and connecting with a lot of people around town.
Yeah.
Because you're buying a lot. I mean, since November, since you've been here, how many deals have you bought?
27 have closed, and I think we have we got a lot in the pipeline.
Yeah, it's incredible.
And are those all your deals? Because I know you also have singlefamilyinvestors.com, right? Where you help other people get into this.
Yeah, so I own 6 homes closing on a 7th next week, and then I bought a retail center. So I bought those myself.
Great.
Cash, and I'm going to refinance them if rates drop.
Yeah. And so you mentioned singlefamilyinvestors.com. Is that you're raising money? Is that kind of a hub where people are going in?
I have clients that live in New York, San Fran.
Yeah.
They live in markets where they can invest. They got 100, they got 200, they got 300 grand. They don't know what to do with it.
Which goes a long way here.
Yeah. And so for us, we'll help source that deal. We have a construction crew. We'll fix up the property. We'll place the tenant and then offer the property management services. And so long as we get them a really, really great deal and they have a great experience, they'll keep coming back. And so in December and January, right after we met, there was nothing for us to buy.
Yeah.
It was inventory really tightened up. And so we had investors were like, look, we're not going to put you on a deal we wouldn't buy. So it's going to take a little bit longer.
Yeah.
And they waited, and these investors got great deals. And so our model is we just do a great job and they're just going to keep coming back. And
absolutely.
Yeah.
And that's always the trend. We've, year over year, it's always that December, January, February, you hit this slump where it's like everyone wants to hold off until spring, summer.
No one wants to move in the winter.
Yeah. And it was like a blizzard.
Yeah.
It was a brutal winter here.
It was. The problem with the winters here, though, we did get a lot of snow this year, but it's just so damn gray. Mm-hmm. You feel like you're living in a sewer for 3-4 months out of the year. You know, it's insane.
But the summers are great.
Summers are great. And we have some of the best summers here. Yeah. Really. Cleveland, Chicago.
There's so many different things to do. I mean, there really is.
It's a good time to buy. I mean, you're doing the right thing, right? Obviously, I think home ownership, is becoming a rarity, right? For everyday Americans, they're just being priced out of the market.
Yeah.
So it's pretty incredible what you've been able to do.
Have you heard of the DoorDash Klarna deal?
No.
Klarna, right? The buy now, pay later. Yeah. Well, if you don't have enough money for your pizza from DoorDash or your burrito, they'll finance it on installment plans.
That's a really scary thing to hear.
Yeah, buy now, pay later.
Yeah,
people are doing that with just groceries,
and not a couple people. You're talking millions.
Yeah, it's insane.
People are financing groceries. So you start looking at that, you're like, all right, well, if building the house is going to cost $250 grand and we could buy it for 70, and builders can't build new inventory and compress prices down, then there's going to be a fixed supply inside of this affordability crisis where people are financing burritos. Mm-hmm. I think there's going to be way more upside than downside risk in that equation.
I mean, the economic divide is becoming so massive. You either need to own real estate, own land, buy businesses without getting over leveraged, right? So now's the time to do it. Yeah,
all my friends that are doing really well, life has never been better for them.
Right.
they're happier than I've ever seen them.
And then the ones who aren't doing well are miserable.
You want to like kind of, you don't want to say anything about anything.
Yeah.
You don't want to like, people are in a bad situation.
And then you get people spending $425K in Miami for a music festival.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I saw that on your video. It's crazy how you could just clearly define the divide of a society. It's crazy.
It really is. Like when people drop $100 grand on a watch and $200 grand, it's like not a big deal and this and that. And then you have other people that are like really struggling. So I think there's just going to be so much attention towards Cleveland. Like I think it's the best real estate market in America. Not even like buy a friggin' landslide.
And you've been everywhere. So
Everywhere.
You know what I mean?
Everywhere. Yeah. I mean, you have property rights here. I had a tenant in LA.
What's a red state?
Yeah. But like I had a tenant in LA.
Oh, Jesus. Good luck.
Yeah. Well,
I don't even know where you're going with this, but good luck.
Yeah. I bought this property and I paid the tenant to relocate, right? Tenant took the money, took the check. It was a little over 20 grand. Then she had an attorney. I had an attorney, took the check at the courthouse. Then 2 years later, or like it was a little bit less than 2 years, it was like 18, 19 months. She saw me on social media and she's like, oh, this guy can afford to pay more. He should have paid more. And she sued me again, but not for like a little bit, like north of $1.5 million.
Get out of here.
Yeah. And I'm
my
like,
God.
oh, fuck, like this lady's really coming for me, dude. Like I got my insurance company. I was really fortunate I had a landlord policy. I got my insurance company involved. They fought it for like a year and a half, which probably would have cost me a few hundred grand if I didn't have the coverage. And then we ended up having to pay out again. The insurance company paid her out $180,000, so they didn't have to go to trial because trial would have cost so much. And I had to pay her 10 grand. Like I literally have goosebumps thinking about this story.
That is insane.
God.
I'm
How
like,
messed up are those governing laws? It's like, let's support this. I mean, there's no basis to that.
yeah, I'm like, the lady was living there for like nothing. The amount of money she made, she could have bought, a $500,000 house for 50% down.
Yeah.
Like, but yeah, the system is just, I'll never forget what the insurance company said. And I was like, we'll take it to trial because she cashed the check. We have everything in writing. And they said, you have to remember, John, when you go to court, you're going in front of a jury of her peers, not a jury of yours. And this is like right around like that 20. I'm like, yeah, because we get there, who are they going to side with?
Right.
The little El Salvadorian lady or me?
Right.
They're not going to like, you know what I mean? So I'm like, okay, like it doesn't even come down to like the merits of the case. It just comes down to
Which is
everything
crazy.
else. So I'm like, I stopped investing and I just bounced from California.
Yeah.
It's crazy. And what do you think the future of California is? I see it looks like Grant Cardone might be trying to make a run at the governing spot.
It's just going to like break off from the U.S. and just become its own little island. Like,
well, it's been, I mean, some would say that it's the best state in the country. And it's sad to see the trajectory that it's on right now. So where do you see it going in the 5-10 years?
This like I love California. I'm gonna be like I love it. I hate how it's run. Like California, if it had better people running it, so many businesses would come back. So much money would flow there. So much opportunity would be given to the people. Like it would be amazing. But it's not gonna. I don't think it's gonna happen anytime soon. I think what's gonna happen is they're gonna continue to slowly encroach on property rights to a point to where a lot of people are just gonna continue leaving the state. And as they leave, more people are going to be dependent on the government. The government's going to need X, Y, and Z protocol to offer these social services, and it's just going to continue to likely get worse. Mm-hmm. But I think it's going to push a lot of people to places that they're going to have more freedom.
I agree.
Yeah, and I think it seems like a lot of people had left California for states like Texas and Florida. And now you look at some of these markets, and it's interesting. I'm curious your thoughts on it, but you see a lot of inventory in certain cities in Florida, like at Cape Coral, Tampa, some of these other cities like Dallas. You see a ton of inventory on the market. Why do you think that is?
Well, I think their insurance is through the roof in Texas and Florida now.
Yeah.
And I think that
You can't underwrite a deal in Florida. You cannot buy it's impossible.
Nope. And it's going to get worse. So I saw this article from Glenn Kelman, the CEO of Redfin. This is like late 2021. And he was saying that climate change is going to be the reason that insurance companies and mortgage companies don't underwrite deals. I'm like, whatever, right? But I'm like, the CEO of Redfin saying that. It's like, all right, we'll see. Like, we'll see if insurance is really going to, because what they're basically doing is setting the conversation for draconian measures are coming for XYZ reason.
Right.
So I'm like, okay, let's see. And then you're like, boom, you see the rent, the increase. And it's like, all right, well, I do think that's going to happen. And I think it's going to push more people to sell and savvy investors to step in. Like, Blackstone, they just acquired, like, I forget what this portfolio size was in Miami, but thousands of units.
Or they're going to buy out all the bad debt that people are, leveraging, right?
Yeah, and they're
that's
gonna buy blocks of debt from banks directly.
Right. Blocks.
And that's a whole nother thing, right? You have what, 2.7 trillion that's coming due.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In 2027.
Yeah. And a lot of people are over leveraged on, I don't know what percent of those properties are over leveraged, but I'm sure a very sizable amount.
$1 trillion in multifamily and then 1.7 in office.
And they underwrote those deals at what, probably 2, 3, maybe even 4%. And now they're going to be refining into 7, 8, potentially 9.
Yeah,
depending on where rates go.
A lot of people don't realize like what multifamily and commercial, it's a different world entirely.
Yeah.
Multifamily, you're refining every 3, 5, 7 years in most cases. So when people are buying deals in 2021 at a 3 or 4 cap, insurance is low and they're expecting 20% rent bumps every year. Well, what's going to happen when you got an all-time high, 50-year high in apartment construction, and then rates double on both insurance and mortgages? Like either these investors have to do a capital call, which I don't think a lot are going to be successful with that. Some will, right? But a lot might not be.
Yeah.
And then I think you're going to have these other investors that are going to step in and buy these deals directly from the bank at a discount. And if I were doing that, and let's say I were buying in Dallas and there were 50 apartment buildings around me, and I were able to get a much lower cost basis than everybody, I would drop my rent substantially. Not like a little bit. Like I would drop it probably 40% below competition.
Yeah.
I would absorb that market share and I'd put more pressure on these other competitors, try to
Yeah.
like buy as many of these buildings as possible. And then afterwards, increase rents.
Right.
Like that's what Blackstone, these corporations, they would be foolish not to do it. And these guys are a hell of a lot smarter than most people.
Yeah, I can imagine. And you just look at the deal and you underwrite it at, hey, I'm going to significantly drop the rent. I'm going to make this deal work. I'm going to price everyone else out and let everyone else ride the storm out. And I'm just going to keep coming up on it. Right. Yeah.
Yeah. That's how they did with Invitation Homes. You know their model?
What is their model?
In 2011, Blackstone founded them, right? And the model was they're going to be called the dollar more guys. That was like the nickname that they came up with. And so what they would look at is they would look at like certain neighborhoods and pockets, and they would say, the land value of this is X. The cost to build this property, if it's 1,000 square feet, $150 a foot, hypothetically, 150 grand. They value the land at 100. They're like, all right, to replace it, it's 250. 175 at 150. Like we would buy it at XYZ discount. And they would go to all
Discount
the auctions.
from replacement costs.
Yep.
Yeah.
They would go to all the auctions. They would go to have the conversation with the asset managers of banks, sheriff sales, and they would acquire and acquire and acquire only based on that model. They bought 80,000 houses like that.
That's incredible.
Why wouldn't people do that this time around? Except this time, I think what's going to happen is we're going to see these big players. They're not going to be going and doing the auctions. I don't think it's going to be like a 2008, 2009 thing where like the media is like, oh, the market crash.
They're going to do it undercover,
real
right?
quiet.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Buy 5,000 here, 10,000
Exactly.
here. Yep. And then be like, oh, people are going to wake up like, wait, Preti and Partners owns 480,000 houses? Oh, wait, I'm financing my burrito from a company that they own?
It's wild.
I think
It's
that's
crazy.
what's going to happen.
And you see a lot of people talking about these companies pricing them out of homes. You see first-time home buyers coming and saying, how do I compete with these guys, right? Do you think there's going to be any sort of regulations coming into play with the government potentially saying, hey, you guys got to stay out of buying over 1,000 houses or whatever the number they put on it is? Do you think there's anything like that could happen?
A lot of people would think that there's like hopium and there's going to be someone that's going to come and save the day. But I think that a lot of these big players are funding a lot of the people in office. And I don't think someone in office is going to put something through that's going to cut off funding.
Yeah.
Or get in the way of the person really making the decision.
Yeah. No, it makes a lot of sense. Another thing I was seeing in a lot of the news is a lot of states are proposing abolishing property tax. Do you think that's going to start to see the light? Is that actually going to happen? Is that a possibility?
Honestly, we live in like a clown world where like they say this is going to happen, that's going to happen. Some things do.
Yeah.
Most things don't. Everyone's just distracted with it. Like every day there's 50 stories. Like with the tariffs, for example.
Right.
How many conversations around tariffs had there,
Oh
were
my
there in like
gosh.
the last 2 weeks?
Right.
It
Look how
feels
the
like it's a
market
year.
reacts to it, right?
Yeah.
Up, down, up, down. It's crazy.
Yeah. So like with the property taxes, with like income taxes, I'm sure some will probably do it, right? But I don't think it's going to benefit most people. I think it's going to benefit the players,
Yeah.
like top 10%. So like, I think the next couple of years, a lot of people can get in that top 10% that try,
Right.
.
So I saw another interesting stat the other day. 11% of FHA borrowers were behind on payments.
Yeah.
11%
Yeah,
of FHA borrowers. That is insane. And wasn't like there was something with Biden, right? Where
Payment
I think you
protection
spoke on this. Maybe it was a video I saw, but what was it called?
a payment protection plan.
Yeah.
They'll reduce your payments 25%.
Insane.
And so like they did the same thing with VA loans. They weren't reporting on foreclosures. So it's like they're not reporting on student loans and now 9 million behind. FHA, VA, like they're doing all these things like, oh yeah, economy's booming. Meanwhile, they're increasing property taxes throughout the entire nation at such insane levels where people are like, oh, my home's worth 500K. It's like, all right, like they're paying taxes on that value.
Right.
Right. Like I think the economy is in a very interesting place because of all those protections that Biden and a lot of people put in.
Yeah, I agree.
So how could, I think you kind of already spoke to this, but just for the people listening, how could people position themselves today? If you're someone just, maybe you're working a 9 to 5 and you're just trying to figure out how can I get ahead? How can I get out of this quote unquote rat race? How can I position myself or start to take steps to set myself up? What would you say to that person?
Yeah, and to piggyback off that, like how would you get started? Because I think there's a common myth of you need so much money sitting in your bank account to get into real estate, right? So, I mean, your story is incredible. How do you get involved in that?
How I started, this was like 2014, 2015. Like I wanted to like really save up more money and more money. I was living in a bachelor apartment with my wife, right? Mm-hmm. This bachelor apartment was probably a third of the size of this room. And we had just a mattress and a box spring, a small little like kitchenette thing. It was like a small little mini fridge, little thing on top. We just had a bunch of books. She was studying to be a nurse.
No kids at the time?
No kids, no. My kid's only 3 and 5. So this is like, I don't know, 12 years ago.
Yeah.
And I was making maybe 250, 260 a year. And my wife, she ended up graduating like, a few months later. She was making like 65 or 70. So collectively we were making north of 300 and our rent was $800 a month. Right now people would be like, oh, look, $800, you can't do that. We could have rented a really nice place in Santa Monica for $2,000.
Yeah.
And could have comfortably afforded it. Mm-hmm. You're making north of 25K a month. You can spend too. We weren't. We were driving her beat up Honda.
Yeah, you sacrificed a little bit.
Yeah. She had like a beat up Honda. We had like a decent car that I do for showings as like an agent.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't drive it because I didn't want the wear and tear on it. Mm-hmm. And so like we were just sacrificing, saving and investing. And so I think today with TikTok and Instagram, a lot of people are like, oh, I'm not gonna do that. My friends are gonna think I'm a loser if I cut back.
Right.
If it were me and I had nothing, there'd be no shame in it. I'd move back with my dad, my mom. Like I'd move in with somebody, I'd bring in a roommate, I'd start a business and I would take control of my situation.
I think that's what makes it so tough for this generation coming up is you have social media and Instagram to see everyone's life highlights and it shows the good side of everyone's life. And some people can sit there when they're struggling to get ahead and say, how do I do this? Everyone else is living this extravagant life and I'm sitting here paycheck to paycheck essentially, right? Yep. So it sounds like what you're saying is keep your overhead as low as you possibly can and stack up as much extra cash as you possibly can, right?
100%. Like, but you need to stack it and invest it. Like I would not, if I were to buy a house, I'd probably buy something in Cleveland and it would probably be a duplex for like 80 grand in like a so-so area. I live in one side. I'd probably bring in a roommate to cover
the whole house hack thing.
Yeah, and I'd do that, and then I'd drive like an old Toyota Camry, and I would just try to save up, buy my second deal, try to start a business, try to buy 2, 3, 4 deals, at least cover my monthly nut.
Yep.
And then I'd be like, okay, I have some breathing room, and then only then maybe like I would get like a up it a little bit, but not a lot.
Yeah. No, I see. That's great.
I was just curious. What is your buy box now, right? What are you buying and where? I think it was Garfield Heights at one point, like mostly. Or did you kind of expand that? And did you expand your market or is it just Cleveland? Are you Northeast Ohio?
Yeah, we're Northeast Ohio. Like we don't want to stay in the danger zones. We don't want big houses with high tenant turnovers, with the high repair cost, with like a really struggling demographic.
Yeah.
We prefer to be in quiet suburban neighborhoods, and a perfect tenant for us would be easygoing, retiree, veteran, single mom.
Yeah.
Someone that is looking for stability.
Right.
We want to give them a
Not
nice
gonna
house.
move around all the time.
Yeah. When we buy our properties, fix them up, they're the nicest house on the street. Mm-hmm. And we have a gardener that goes there and maintains it. So they go there, they pull in the driveway, like this is mine. This is private ownership.
And all single families, right?
Yeah.
Because people tend to stay longer in single families than multifamily.
Yeah. And the price per unit, it's, you know, on a duplex, on a fourplex, like you're paying what, 60, 70 a unit? You might as well get the house for like a little bit more.
Right. What about, is there a threshold of price? Like, are you under a certain?
We won't go 100.
Over 100?
No.
All like buying, and then like, do you have to be, your cost basis has to be in under 100?
Yeah.
So if you're buying something, you'd buy something for 80 that needs 20, as long as you're in for under 100.
Yeah. I bought something in Maple for 92 that needed like 8. That was at 100. That was the most we've ever done.
Interesting.
And when you're bringing these tenants in, you spoke to how well your finished product is that they move into, they see the house, it's beautiful. How are you screening your tenants?
So we have Casey and Marge, and they used to work directly at Experian and Equifax. So they've looked at like tens of thousands of credit reports. So they'll go through the credit report. We do a site visit at the tenant's house, see how they're currently living, criminal background checks, reference checks with their landlord. We go through everything, because some of these tenants are like, they're pros.
Yeah.
If you don't do your research, forget about it. And it's not just like tenants here; it's tenants across the board. Like I had I'll never forget it. When I was a real estate agent in Beverly Hills, we had a client that I'm not gonna like give enough information where people would know who he is, but let's say like he was one of the most famous baseball players for like a 10-year period. And he's like, he wanted to rent a house in Bel Air, and this place in Bel Air, he was submitting false income documents. Like he was submitting all fake info.
Can you say what team?
But like, yeah, all fake info. And the place is $20,000 a month. This is a long time ago.
That's
like
crazy,
that was a ton of money back then. And so I'm
bizarre.
like, wow, you have people at that level. And then like on the level between like 2 to 4K, that's like fake pay stubs, fake. It's like, okay, there's like, but what he was doing was way more sophisticated. And so, because if you Googled him, you would think the person's net worth is like mega.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And so you like start to see that trickle down effect. Here, I had a lady that applied for a place, and like her scam was like good, but it wasn't as good as his.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, okay, like I think there's levels of sophistication. So you just want to always be careful.
Right.
Definitely. And then as far as your construction process goes, right? Because to me, coming into a new market, that can be one of the biggest hurdles when you want to get into buying and renting and flipping single family homes. I know you're not flipping, but in general, just getting these properties rent ready. How did you assemble a great construction team? It sounds like you guys, the people you have working with you are incredible. How were you able to do that?
I was very, very lucky. Like sometimes you just get lucky in life. I'll be honest.
You
like,
always have to get lucky at some point.
Yeah.
You
But
know?
the
it always
key-
involves a little luck.
But you know what the key is? Putting yourself in the position to be lucky.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. Like we had this guy, I was looking at a house, right? And he was doing like the masonry work on the step. And we were looking at this house, and like the guy was like real nice. And I'm like, all right, like he was just like, kind of like, I don't think he was like the boss, but he was just like, he was sent there to do the job.
Right.
Right. But he was like polite. I'm like, hey, you got a card? And he's like, no, but you can take my number. I'm like, all right, cool. And I was like, oh, I'm John. Right. And he's like, oh, nice to meet you, Mr. John. And I'm like, I like this. Right.
Mr.
Like,
John.
Yeah. And he calls everybody Mr., not just me. Everybody. Like even his colleagues. So I'm like, I like this. I like this guy. I brought him over to give a bid on a property we just bought, and it was like $6,000. And the other guy, this other guy pulled up in an Audi, and it was north of 20. And I'm like, okay, this dude's doing it for a third, less than a third.
Yeah.
Like, okay, I'm going to give him the work. I go there, and I see the work, and it's him and his crew, and they're blasting out Bible music inside the house, and they're like having a good old time. I'm like, I like these dudes.
Heck
like
yeah.
these dudes are cool. Right? Like there's like that community there. They're not just like smoking Newports and like drinking 40s out front. Like these are like solid dudes. So I'm like, all right, they did a great job. I'm like, I'm going to give you another job. And it just gave him job after job. And he expanded his crew from like a few of his buddies, I think like at church, to now it's like north of 20 guys.
Wow.
And
so you're just using them. It's just that like the group of 20.
Yeah. Well, it's mainly that guy. I'm helping him expand. So like he has people at his church. And I'm like, oh, we need someone for windows. And he's like, oh, I'll try to find somebody. Sometimes they're not the best, right? Like sometimes they might, do a bad job, but he tries to get the best people, and may half of them don't make it.
Yeah.
But like he is, he's proven so far to be ethical, and he makes decent money working with us, and he's trustworthy without the ego. Sometimes like you get a really, really good guy, but his ego is through the roof,
right?
And he wants so much money where it doesn't even make sense to pay him. this guy's like just been great for us. So
That's
Pretty
amazing.
incredible, like what you've been able to accomplish in a new market since November. I mean, really, that is hard to do.
I think a lot of that happens because the team that we've already had a team when we came here, and I had a lot of experience in real estate before. And so for us, it was just like, okay, like we just want to kind of figure out the market. And then a lot of our clients are the people that watch me online on like YouTube have a similar way of seeing the world. And we have a lot in common. Like people will come up to me in the street like, yo, what's up, John? I'm like, yo, what's up? And like, it's almost like we've known each other for years.
Well, it helps that you have like 1 million billboards around town with your face on it.
I mean, like, I don't like the billboard thing is more of something that we haven't even seen a return on it. It's more of something that's like, we hope to in 2 years.
Yeah. And it's also good brand awareness, right? But I was going to ask you, like, I've done a billboard before and it didn't work.
Yeah. Well,
Right. But I think we ran it for, I don't know, 6 to 12 months or something. But have you actually gotten a deal from a billboard?
No, it's like if you look at Tim Minsney, right? Who like I messaged him on Instagram. I'm like, yo, dude, love your billboards. And he's like, all right, thanks. And I'm like, yeah, I just put up some at Maple and Garfield and some of these other areas. He's like, all right, cool. I'm like, yeah, hope to connect one day. And that was like the end of it.
Yeah.
But like, it's working for that guy. Because I was like, I would talk to my contractor. I'm like, when you think of billboards, who do you think? And like the guy did the eyebrow thing that Tim does.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's
It's
crazy.
just an eyebrow on a billboard, and people know exactly what it is, and they all talk about it.
Yeah.
Did you see that billboard with just the eyebrow? That's Tim Misney. Like, how crazy is that? And he gets people talking about it. It's unbelievable what he's been able to do with that kind of marketing.
Yeah, he's dumping tons of cash.
Yeah,
but
no
that
doubt.
model, what they're doing is like, if you know like Morgan and Morgan.
Yeah. of
Yeah.
course.
Dude, they're dropping $350 million a year in ads. Isn't that
crazy.
freaking crazy?
That's
is wild.
They're doing
crazy.
$2 billion a year in business. And I'm like, talking to like Rock, like on Twitter or X, you can like, so I was like, oh, tell me the model of Morgan and Morgan. Like, help me explain how they did this. And I'm like sitting there having like a 2-hour conversation with Grok about Morgan and Morgan's approach. And it was, they spent 18% or 17.8% of all revenue every single year for the last decade back into ads.
Wow.
So I'm like, a lot of the competitors are like, oh yeah, we're going to go like a little bit, like they're going hard.
Yeah.
And then when you look at their model, like they're getting 30 to 40% on these settlements. So like it's like a lead funnel.
Right.
And then if they get like, let's call it 100 leads, maybe 1 or 2 or 3 are good, and they're getting 30 to 40%. If one of those is $1 million settlement, it's $300,000.
Yeah, it works.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just about that cash conversion cycle too, right? You put the billboard out. How long do you got to wait until that money comes back? That's part of it.
A while.
But if you have the capital to be able to sustain it for X amount of time, 12 months, 2 years, 3 years, I mean, you can sit back and get a nice return, and it's flowing monthly at that point.
I think it's like a 2-year. I think it's a 2-year thing. So I think it's like I could be wrong. I mean, we could talk in 2 years and be like, yeah, freaking got crushed on that billboard. Right? But like, you just don't know. And it's like a 2-year thing where it's like, I have the money sitting. I'd rather risk it.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
and so, yeah, Tim, like he's got north of 200 boards though.
Oh yeah. All over the place.
200. Yeah. And he's not just Cuyahoga. Like the dude's like, he's moving in like different pockets and
Yeah,
stuff.
he's
I'm like,
everywhere.
yeah.
He's everywhere. Where do you and your wife live?
Cleveland Heights.
Cleveland Heights.
Yeah.
You like it out there?
It was random. Like when we first came out here, I'm like, we're driving, and like when we were like, all right, we're gonna do this, I'm like, all right, get an Airbnb somewhere. Like I didn't tell her where. I'm like, somewhere, right? And she's like, all right, pick Warrensville. And like we were in Warrensville for a week and a half. I'm like, let's get the hell out of here.
Yeah.
Get the hell out of here. And she's like, oh, we'll pick something else, right? Like, she's like, oh, I got something in Cleveland Heights. I'm like, all right, cool.
You're
And
in a
so, like,
house?
house, yeah.
Cool. And you have 2 kids.
2 kids.
Awesome, man. 3 and 5.
Yeah, 3
Boy,
and
girl?
5. Both boys.
Oh, both boys.
Yeah.
Double trouble, man.
Yeah, they're having a blast together out here. Like there's just so much to do.
Yeah.
They
It's
got
amazing.
like
His son's gonna be on X Games soon. He's
he's got
tearing it up.
he's got a trainer out here who's sponsored by Monster Energy.
Get out of here.
Yeah, like it's I like the real estate stuff's cool, but like him, like his confidence exploding is like next level. Because he came out here like kind of just like a normal kid. Now he's like walking around like he's like, you know what I mean?
But 5 years old?
He turned 5 in December. So it's like, because his friend, now it's like his friend's doing double backflips. And so like,
5 years old, man. That's insane.
I know.
yeah, he's had a great time. And like seeing that, and they got like, they're doing everything from like violin lessons, parkour, gymnastics, swimming lessons, Spanish lessons. It's
unbelievable,
literally
man.
all day long. My wife's just like driving the kids to like different activities. In Florida, they couldn't do that.
I was going to say the price difference from here to Florida or California is like immense.
Oh no,
for
it's a
these kinds
drive. Like we were in Delray, so it was 45 minutes to an hour to Miami, 35 to 40 to West Palm. So they drive all day long.
Yeah, that's the thing about Cleveland. Everything's accessible. Even like where you live, all the great suburbs in Cleveland are within 30 minutes of the city, 35 minutes of the city.
Yep.
You know, and you can get from one side, the east side of the city, to the west side in 7 minutes.
Yeah. Where else can you do that?
Right. Yeah. I mean,
Like I was looking on Bank of America's website, and they're like, "Oh, the population where capital is flowing the most is Indianapolis, Cleveland, Columbus, and Austin because of affordability." I'm like, huh?
I think Pittsburgh's another interesting market too.
Yeah, you know Barbara Corcoran? Of course you do. Like Shark Tank.
Yeah, yeah.
So she was getting interviewed, and
She said Pittsburgh. I saw that.
yeah, and
I
I was
saw
like,
of,
Pittsburgh.
where to start a new venture or something
Yeah.
along those lines.
Yeah.
People weren't talking about that stuff. Like nobody's talking like, oh yeah, Pittsburgh, like 2 years ago. But I think people were like, oh, Pittsburgh, like yeah, I can
Well,
get a
kind of
decent
the
spot
same
there.
thing with
Like,
Cleveland. It's a smaller market. It's affordable.
Yeah.
And there really is an affordability crisis, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, no one wants to live in New York anymore. No one can afford to live in New York anymore.
So I was in Manhattan over the weekend with my wife, and we dropped the kids off. My dad's in Jersey. I'm like, we'll go out there, just kick it and hang out, and I got a coffee. It was like a little bag of coffee. It was $10 for the coffee, and then they asked for the tip, $1, $2, or $3. So I'm like, what, I'm gonna spend $13 on this freaking coffee?
That's
On a
insane.
coffee.
Yeah, but then we go out to sushi. We do something that's like 150, 200. Well, like we go to another coffee spot. We would get 2 coffees. I get a iced vanilla latte. She get a matcha green tea latte. She get like some pastry thing, and I get like a breakfast sandwich. $50.
Yeah.
It's like people can't afford it. When we were at that sushi restaurant, a couple next to us was talking about how their friend moved somewhere else because they couldn't afford to live in the city. We're like, we're hearing people talking about it, and I don't think most people on the street aren't openly talking about it, but everyone's friend circles are talking about how bad things are.
Right.
It's crazy. One of the things I wanted to ask you about is the future with AI and what you see. Because to me, it's just getting more and more relevant and more powerful. And even in our business in wholesaling real estate, I had the thought of pretty soon AI is going to be making cold calls and talking to people and potentially, I don't know if they'll ever be able to close deals, but it's like, what do you see the future? How do you see this playing out in the next couple of years as AI really starts to get integrated into society, especially in an affordability crisis, right? They could potentially take a lot of jobs. And I know eventually the market can adjust and people can find those higher level activities that AI can take over, but there is an adjustment period. How do you see this playing out?
I think it was like north of 100 years ago. It was like almost 100 years ago. Like most people are farmers in America. Right now, 3% of the population is farmers. So like people like migrated to something else. But I think what's going to happen is we're going to see a lot more demand for the trades, and I think we're going to start seeing prices go up on actually, and there's actually a 2-part to this, because prices are not just going to go up with plumbing and HVAC and stuff like that, like the tariffs and like the installs and all that.
Yeah.
But I was listening to this video where it was talking about how private equity is what they're doing with HVAC companies and roofing companies. Is they're not going and like, oh, we'll buy one HVAC company. Let's say they're in Cleveland, right? And they'll buy the top 3 or 4 or 5 with Google reviews, and then they'll also pay a premium for the likeness of the billboard or of the person who's on that billboard, who's on that bus, who's on that
To keep the brand.
and the likeness of the company.
Wow.
Then they scale up advertising, and since the same entity owns all 3 or 4 of these companies, you'll get a quote from, call it like A+,
Right.
garage doors or whatever it may be, right? And then you're like, oh no, I'm going to call this other company, and they'll even tell them like, yeah, you can go get some other quotes. They're going to go get quotes from 3 or 4 of the same companies. And everything is going to be, oh yeah, went from 1,000, 2,000, now it's 4,000. But if you don't have the 4,000, no worries, we do installment plans. Sign
my
here.
gosh.
And so they sign up for an installment loan using the collateral of their property,
Right.
as like a second position.
Yeah, yeah.
And then yeah, it's like pretty strategic. So I think that we're going to see AI automating a lot of businesses. I think private equity is going to like cut the fat on a lot of businesses and make them more lean and mean. And I think we're going to see like society shift. But I also think it's going to benefit people that are moving and shaking. Like you guys are making moves. You guys are going to use AI to your advantage, right? Like we're all going to do things to automate and like become better.
Right.
Every business, and those that don't will get left behind. I don't think there's a way around it. Like
Yeah.
Sam Altman, he said in the future, there's going to be $1 billion company run by one person. It's because of AI. If you look at, 20, 30 years ago, like Ford, all the employees and people that they had,
Yeah.
they cut a lot.
Oh yeah.
And they're going to continue to cut a lot.
Yeah. I mean, look at Detroit, right?
Yeah.
It's exactly what happened in that city.
Yeah. But I think it's I think we're in an incredible period for capitalism.
Yeah.
Just those that are really trying to get it, though.
Yeah, absolutely.
John, what would you say to the people? It's kind of a loaded question, but what's your biggest piece of advice for someone looking to kind of make a change in their life and getting into the real estate space and creating wealth and opportunities for their families?
A lot of people online talk about you can invest in real estate with no money down, and there's like all these get rich quick paths in real estate. I don't really think there is. I think that you should, if you want to get into real estate, you want to work with someone that has experience that can teach you and train you, and you can get that education without paying the tuition and striking that check.
Yeah.
You can learn from somebody else, and then graduate and then start doing deals without losing as much money.
Yeah.
So like I would look at investing and not try to complicate things.
Right.
That's the beautiful thing about wholesaling real estate to me is I don't want to say that it's a way to get into real estate with no money. It is possible. It really is possible to get into wholesaling with no money. If you are driving down the street and you see a distressed house and you look up on the tax records who owns it and you call them and you strike a great deal, you can make money off that virtually with $0.
Yeah.
Right. But to me, it really is the best way to get into the real estate game, because at the end of the day, as a wholesaler, it's the foundation of real estate investing, right? Every good real estate opportunity comes from an off-market deal, more than likely,
Yep.
right?
Starts with a discounted deal.
a distressed property. So, but at the same time, you get the sales and the marketing experience, but you also get the experience underwriting deals, right?
Yep.
So after you start building some relationships with different buyers, you're able to say, okay, I'm starting to understand how this guy's buying properties and how he's making money, right? He has to, if he's flipping, he's got to be all in at this number, and this is his return. This is what he pays in closing costs. Or if he's building a rental portfolio, this is kind of his all-in number, and these are the returns he's looking for. So to me, I think it's a beautiful way to really get into the real estate game as a beginner. If you don't have any experience, I think it's a different situation if maybe you have a full-time job and you're making a good salary and you just want to go put your money to work, right?
Yeah.
But if you're looking to really make a complete, almost career change, I would say, and you want to get all into real estate, I love wholesaling. That's how I started, and I would truly recommend it to anyone to get out there. Do you have any experience wholesaling real estate at all?
No,
Not at all.
So like what I love about wholesaling is you get the education of learning how to be an investor without really
Correct.
risking your own capital.
Correct.
Like if I brought you a deal that was 50 cents on the dollar, you would buy it and be like, okay, Anthony bought it because of this.
Yep.
If I brought you a deal that was overvalued, you'd be like, don't send me stuff like that. Dude.
Right.
And I'm like, oh, okay, I understand why now. And I got to learn that for free, right?
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
And so when you get into real estate, you can learn like that. But what I was mainly talking about is like people with seller financing and zero money, like $0 down, like that type of stuff, like that people talk about getting rich. I think there's a lot more risk in that.
I'm not going to lie to you. It absolutely irks me when I see that because you know, we're all in the business. We know how it is. You for one, I would be shocked if you can find a seller financing deal with $0 down that actually made sense and penciled, right? But also getting into a deal like that with $0 down, you probably have limited cash to begin with. One thing goes wrong in that house. What are you going to do? A furnace goes,
Bingo.
a roof starts leaking, right? All these things. It's like, what do you do? And then not to mention you go and put a tenant in that property and something happens and the tenant's in there. What are you going to do? You don't have the money to fix it. You're really screwed.
Just tenant turnover when they leave. I mean, how are you going to fix it up to re-rent?
Like, there's so many people that are like assigning mortgages and like, oh yeah, I'm just going to rent it. I'm like, what are you going to do about that 20% increase on insurance, bro, next year? Like, they're like, yeah, if you have cash, then you could learn if a curveball comes to you, you can write the check.
You can learn a little bit more responsibly with a little less risk.
Yeah, it's less risk, right? Getting into a fix and flip and you're over your head, you go to sell it and it takes you however long to sell it and you lose money. That's an expensive mistake, a very expensive mistake. So I think that's why I'm always such a big advocate for wholesaling, because I think it truly is the best way to learn real estate.
Yeah, if you can get the leads, you'll have no problem selling them.
It's marketing and sales.
Yeah.
That's what it really is.
Sales,
it's
exactly
marketing
right.
and sales.
Yeah, you get those.
You got to be
leads,
good at both.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and you have that. If you have a good reputation, like people are just going to keep coming back, and it's like
course.
it's like this never-ending cycle.
Because deals are hard to find. The flippers and the buy and hold guys, that's why they pay assignment fees. They want to cut that bullshit. They don't want to hear about the seller's sob story about what's going on in their life. You know, why they got to move across the country or why they're being foreclosed on. They just want to buy it and fix it and sell it and make their money. They don't want to deal with all the problems that it comes with. And that's why we add so much value to the marketplace.
Yeah. Like there was a wholesaler brought me a deal in Maple a few weeks ago, or like 4 weeks ago. And this lady was like a hoarder, like stuff literally from the floor to the ceiling, and there was like little paths to walk through the house. And I walked through it, I couldn't even see the house.
Yeah. Been in a few houses like that.
Yeah, I couldn't even see it. And I was like, okay, well, when are we able to close? Like my whole thing is like, oh, this lady's going to be a nightmare getting her out because it's going to take her forever to go through her stuff and figure out what she's going to keep and not.
Right.
He's like, oh yeah, she'll close now. All right. Like we bought it sight unseen, and the wholesaler ended up making a $6,000 assignment fee. I'm like, cool. Like you win, I win. Like good deal.
Yeah.
We ended up getting 4 40-yard dumpsters to pull all that stuff out.
Oh my
and
gosh.
like we spent a decent amount of money. We bought it for 64. So I'm like, it is what it is, you know.
Yeah.
Like 64 in Maple, I'll do it.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, it's been, I think my experience so far with wholesale has been awesome.
That's great. And to me though, you know, speaking to, you kind of mentioned the whole, you know, learning from someone who's done it, right? Because in the wholesale industry, to me, it's so important to do that and to do it the right way.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, some of these people are in truly messed up situations. And the last thing that you want to do is go into an agreement, especially with someone that's in a messed up situation that could be facing foreclosure or something of that nature, and tell them that you're going to buy the property and it's going to close. And if it doesn't close, they're really in trouble.
Yeah.
Right. So I think the right way to go about it is to just learn from someone responsibly, learn from someone who has a track record, right? And implement their strategies, and you will see success. So I think, you know, the whole coaching and consulting type of industry, I really think it's going to grow. I think people are starting to look more away from universities and look more towards what entrepreneur that I resonate with, that I like, and I can learn from, right? Maybe there is a price to it, but it's better than going and spending $50,000 for 4 years in a row, coming out and potentially not even wanting to get into that field that you got into, right?
Yeah. Like you have to get with somebody that's doing it.
Yeah.
Like for when I was an agent years ago in Beverly Hills, 2009, the first few months, I was like, oh, I'm going to do it myself.
Yeah.
Failing miserably. Like running out of money. Like it was a bad situation. But then I started calling top agents and I was like, hey, if I found you a ready, willing, and able home seller, would you co-list the property with me? And they're like, yeah. And so like I'd call them and congratulate them. And they're like, yeah, I'll work with you. And I'm like, okay, cool. And I'd call them and be like, oh, this is John calling on behalf of X, Y, and Z. They just sold X, Y, Z property on your street. Have you ever thought about selling? And then I would book the appointment on behalf of that agent, and I would just shut up. I'd be like, oh, cool, I get to learn something.
Right.
Yeah.
And then end up co-listing a lot of these properties, but I wouldn't just co-list with one agent. I'd co-list with this one and this one and this one.
Yeah.
People would see my name across all these different listings. I wouldn't be associated as like an assistant.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, he's a mover and shaker, just like these people. And so by association, my authority picked up, and then I got a free education and got paid to get it.
That's the beautiful thing, is you can get paid to get this type of education if you ultimately see success and do it the right way, right? And I think that's so important, especially as we get into this affordability crisis. The last thing you want to do is come out of college with 6 figures in student loans starting your life. How challenging can that be in today's world?
I think college, the best days are behind it. I agree with you.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely agree. Where can the people find you, John? You have a big following on Instagram, right?
Yeah, I haven't actually posted that much on Instagram in like the last, I don't know, little while. More on YouTube, but we're gonna post a lot more short form.
Yeah. You're very big on YouTube.
YouTube is like, I think our main. We have like, I don't know, 300 something on YouTube.
Wow.
But like we're posting more on YouTube, and we're gonna be doing a call-in show. We mentioned like, you know, learning.
Yeah.
Like a Dave Ramsey style call-in show we're gonna be doing.
That's awesome.
And we're gonna have
When are you
like,
rolling that up?
probably 3 weeks.
Awesome, man.
So the studio should be done next week. And then, we're going to have, we're going to have like the upstairs. It's a 3-bedroom. It's a 2 and we like made a bedroom. And so it's going to be like one for call-in show, one for current events, one for short form content. And like anyone that we do deals with can just like cruise in, and we'll have a videographer. They can basically have someone film the content they want. They can
That's incredible, man.
That's awesome.
And they can just send the raw to them. And then, people can talk about the deals they're doing. And
Heck yeah.
yeah.
Heck yeah. Well, that's awesome.
Then every time someone's like, oh yeah, I got a deal. It's like, oh, we're going to John's tomorrow. Oh, I'll pitch it to John.
Yeah.
That's right.
Like,
100%.
There you
yeah,
go.
why not, right?
Well, we appreciate it, John. It was an absolute pleasure to have you. Such a good conversation. I think the people and even us got to learn a whole lot. I'm always learning from you. Definitely stay tuned to John's YouTube channel. This is John Williams, right? Definitely stay in touch with that. And as always, please, leave in the comments what you would like to hear us discuss. We're excited to get some more episodes out. So until next time, we will see you then.
Good deal.
All right.
Cool.